we know, the Republican Party is no longer interested in policy. It is no longer interested in the well being of its constituents, in particular, or the American people in general. It is essentially, in the short term at least, in service to Donald Trump. In the long term, however, this is a fascist organization that has as its goal to destroy American democracy, putting in its place some kind of fascist authoritarianism in which the minority will rule in perpetuity. Lately, however, cracks have begun to show in what once seemed to be an completely solid, monolithic front surrounding Donald. But there has been, like I said, some infighting going on among MAGA allies. For example, some tensions have begun to spring up between Donald's MAGA movement and the Make America Healthy Again movement, spearheaded by Robert Kennedy, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. The New York Times reports that there's a growing conflict between these two camps over how to regulate radiation. Kennedy argues that weak, non ionizing radiation from cell phones, Wi Fi, and power lines could contribute to chronic illnesses, and he is pushing for stricter safety rules. Meanwhile, other parts of the Trump regime, which are backed by Donald, are working to loosen restrictions on nuclear or ionizing radiation. This is part of an effort to revive the nuclear power industry and expand its footprint. We should also mention that Donald's company launched Trump Mobile, a 5G service, just weeks after Kennedy's commission cited cell phones as potential health hazards. Now, it is very difficult to pick a side here because, to be fair, Robert Kennedy is a hack who has been endangering the lives of Americans since the day he was confirmed to his office. And Donald has been trying to poison Americans with bleach and ivermectin since COVID. So clearly, neither one of them knows what they are talking about. And yet, they are taking completely opposite stances on this issue. Will Donald reach a breaking point with Kennedy as he has with Musk and Sessions and Cohen? I don't know. But if past is prologue, then clearly, if there is indeed a fight between these two, Donald will come out on top. Meanwhile, some Republicans are becoming outwardly uncomfortable with Donald's trade wars. The Guardian reports this week that the Senate voted 52-48 to overturn Donald's tariffs on Brazilian imports, including coffee and beef. This was a rare bipartisan challenge to Donald's trade policy. The measure passed with support from 5 Republicans: Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, and Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell, both from Kentucky. This resolution would revoke the national emergency declaration Donald used to justify these 50% tariffs. The move was also tied to Brazil's prosecution of former President Jair Bolsonaro, a far-right ally of Donald's. Despite passing the Senate, the measure is unlikely to advance in the Republican-controlled House and would certainly be vetoed by Donald. This vote, however, does shine light on a growing unease some Republicans have over Donald's unilateral trade actions and abuse of power. It is very, very heartening to see that at least some Republicans are finally paying attention to the negative impacts Donald's policies are having, not just on America's standing in the world, but this country's economy and the personal economic situations of the people who vote. But before we go on, we have to keep the pressure on the Trump regime. So please like and share this video. And if you believe in our mission, please subscribe to the Mary Trump Media channel. Even somebody that I would have considered a MAGA poster woman in the not too distant past, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, is breaking from GOP leadership in some instances. CNN reports that in a phone call held by House Republicans, Greene criticized Speaker Mike Johnson over his handling of the government shutdown. She accused him of being out of touch and failing to show leadership. Greene's frustrations were echoed by other Republicans, including Kevin Kiley and Dan Crenshaw. She later posted a statement on Twitter responding to a report on this call. Her post said, in part, quote, You left out that I said I have no respect for the House not being in session, passing our bills, and Donald's executive orders. And I demanded to know from Speaker Johnson what the Republican plan for healthcare is to build the off ramp off Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act tax credits to make health insurance affordable for Americans. Unquote. I don't like saying this, but she's got a point. First of all, it is malpractice for Speaker Johnson not to have the House in session for so long. But it is worth repeating the reason why. Well, there are a couple. One, he can continue to refuse to seat Arizona Congresswoman Grijalva because if he seats her, she will be the deciding vote in a resolution to demand that the FBI turn over the Jeffrey Epstein files to Congress, and because Mike Johnson's only job, truly, is to protect Donald from his criminality, alleged or otherwise. That can't happen. But about healthcare, Republicans have been trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act since it was passed over a decade and a half ago, but they've never been able to. And the longer it is available to Americans, the more popular it is. Something like 80% of Americans do not want to see the Affordable Care Act repealed. You can't get 80% of Americans to agree on anything, truly. So this is where Green and I differ. She seems to think that the problem isn't repealing the Affordable Care Act. It is not having anything in its place. The Republicans, I should say, have had almost 20 years to get their acts together, and they still don't even have a concept of a plan yet. So even though it is hard to take Green at her word, she's on the right track in that she is beginning to understand that falling in line and towing your party line is not always the best way to go. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.